Now, I'm sure all of you are very excited to see what's coming to iOS 12 at WWD. Wait, what? What are we talking about? Talking about this thing? Again? The iPhone 6 from 2014? Did Samsung literally just invent, like, let's all go back and hate the iPhone 6 month because no other smartphone is ever going to sell as good as this thing did? Alright, let's talk about these Bendgate rumors because we can never let this die. And that the new information came out, Apple knew that this was more bendable than an iPhone 5. Crazy idea, I know, that this thing, which is much smaller, lighter, and thicker, may be a bit less bendable than something that has more gripping area, has less width. And yeah, I know, shockingly, when you grab your phone like this, you know, as everyone does, when you're just watching Netflix and then you just, oh no, it's bending! You know, just casual use. Some people reported that the iPhone 6 Plus was having bend problems, and one of the most popular YouTubers, Unbox Therapy, still to this day had his most viewed video back 4 years ago with the iPhone 6 Plus when he bent it on camera, like I said, by doing this. And of course, this type of weak build quality can result in touch disease, which meant that part of the iPhone 6 Plus's display stopped working, which involved some of the chips inside the iPhone to get dislodged and cause a lot of display problems, and Apple would charge their customers for replacing them. Now, the big confusion I have about this is that people seem to be shocked that Apple knew that the iPhone 6 would be a more bendable, flexible phone. Smartphones go through all kinds of durability testing, and yeah, does it shock anyone to know that larger devices that are thin are easier to bend? Why is no one talking about iPad Bendgate? Taking a giant 10.5-inch iPad and just kneeing it down the middle? Yeah, that could bend it. The thing is, guys, I don't think Apple thought that was normal wear and tear. When Apple's testing their smartphones and testing their durability, I don't think they're doing this. They're using calculated measurements to see what average everyday wear and tear would do on the iPhone. And a very, very small percentage of smartphones were affected by this. The iPhone 6 to this day is still one of the most top-selling products, not just iPhones, but top-selling products in all of history. Lots of people still to this day are still using the iPhone 6 Plus. They're letting me know on Twitter, saying they bought it used and there's no signs of bending, they don't have a case, and like I said, they bought it from someone else. So they had it for a while, then decided to get rid of it, sold it to this person a year ago, and they're still using it to this day with no case and no bending problems. So when Apple knew they wanted to have a larger display and a larger form factor that we still resemble to this day, a very reliable design, a very successful design. A lot of people prefer this type of phone build to the fact that we're still releasing phones in 2018 that are modeled after the basic design of the 2014 iPhone 6 Plus. They weren't thinking about a bunch of YouTubers doing this to their phones or literally having the viewers of those YouTubers go into Apple stores and intentionally break iPhones, even though this is not something that goes down easily with normal wear and tear. It was happening to under 400 devices out of tens of millions sold, most of which are still being used today. Or I guarantee you there's been more iPhone 6 Pluses that have been dismantled and recycled than there were that were damaged by bending. If you actually tried to bend the iPhone 6 Plus in normal use just by using it like a normal phone, you result in really hilarious YouTube videos that I remember watching when they first came out back in 2014 that are just hilarious. In fact, you have to check this out. Look at it.
I think the extreme sitting is done. No, I don't see anything. Looks pretty much untouched.
The put in my pocket bend test. Oh, but what about people who put it in their back pocket? Because that's really common, right? Actually launched a Twitter poll not too long ago because I was curious. You know, I don't really put my phone in my back pocket like ever. That's just weird. It makes sitting down uncomfortable, but I could be wrong. So yes, this is not the entire world poll. This is a random sample of people on Twitter. And notice in this poll, I didn't say iPhone. This was not limited to just Apple users. This was any smartphone user out there. I asked you guys, where do you store your phone? And at 89%, we have front pockets, 7% we have back pockets, 4% we have purse or bag or whatever, something that's not the back pocket. So that had around 670 votes, and most of the people on there, dead giveaway, chose front pockets over back pockets. So we're already talking about a small percentage of the market. I imagine Apple does these polls as well, does these tests to see where people store their phone the most often, and they're not too concerned when they find out that there's not a bunch of people putting their phone in their back pocket and then sitting down. But don't worry, Jonathan Morrison from 4 years ago's got you covered. They did a video experimenting with putting the iPhone 6 Plus in your back pocket and sitting down.
Well, either way, it looks like it has survived test 1 and 2, so now we're gonna go to the extreme test.
Now, yes, of course, this has a case on it, but most people have a case on their phone, and as the numbers go to say, this was not a giant problem. It's kind of like blaming Samsung for saying, Samsung knew that when they switched to glass backs, more glass backs would shatter. Now, this is a crazy idea, but also other smartphones at the time of the iPhone 6 also had bend problems.
Now to break it down for you, the Galaxy S6 Edge and the iPhone 6 Plus both suffered permanent damage at 110 pounds of force, while the HTC One did a little bit better, bearing a 120-pound load. However, because of its curved construction, the glass on the Galaxy S6 Edge broke right away, while the glass on the other two devices broke at a much higher load.
Or would bend at the same measurement, but no one cares about them, no one notices because not that many people bought them. The only reason we remember Bendgate on smartphones back here was because this was the most popular one. This is the one people still chose to buy, full well knowing that they could have bending problems. The Galaxy S6 Edge was also known for bending under the same amount of weight applied to an iPhone 6 Plus, but you didn't hear about that in the news. Yes, there were papers in a court filing that said Apple knew the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus would be more flexible, but my guess is that they were already in production and they weren't gonna stop all production just because they thought a couple of YouTubers were gonna go online and tell everyone that if you put all of your pressure in the back of the phone, covering your fingers on the display and pushing with all your energy to just bend it in half. No, that wasn't a priority for them. In fact, I don't know if you know this, but you can throw your phone against a concrete wall and it might break. But Apple doesn't consider that a design defect because that's not ordinary wear and tear. In all of the instances they were testing the iPhone 6 Plus durability in, they couldn't find that to be an ordinary one. So, were there people out there who sat on their iPhone 6 or did some weird activity with it that caused it to bend? Yes, of course that exists. But did Apple consider it ordinary wear and tear that it was going to affect a vast majority of the customers? No, probably not even 1% of the customers were experiencing bend problems. And this iPhone 6 Plus hasn't just been sitting around in my office all day. I let my friends use this when I upgraded to the iPhone 7. I let my sister use this. Both of them for a good long time, and I present to you still now, this iPhone 6 Plus is not yet been bent, still charges, still works perfectly fine, and there's plenty of people out there probably watching this video with an iPhone 6 Plus. So it's safe to say Apple was right to assume that yes, while this aluminum may be a bit more bendable because this is the first time we've had iPhones this large, this is the first time you have such grip on an iPhone yet you can bend it, but that shouldn't count as normal wear and tear, which is what confuses me about the whole Bendgate thing. Anytime someone wants to do a bend test, they immediately go to this position. No one's doing this, and it's not that hard a request to just say, hey, don't do this. Don't intentionally try to bend phones. Yeah, they might bend. In a similar way, if you want the glass on your phone to break, yeah, you can make it happen. It's not that hard. As I jokingly said on Twitter, did LG know that I can punch their TVs and the pixels will stop working? Most of you would say, well, yeah, that makes sense that they would stop working, but why do you need to punch a TV? That's not normal wear and tear. Neither is this, okay? No one's doing that. You're doing that for the sake of getting more views on your video. And here we are 4 years later, still talking about why the iPhone 6 was designed wrong, even though it sold better than really any other smartphone to ever exist. By the way, even though this affected an extremely low percentage of customers, they still try to fix it on the iPhone 6s design. They intentionally tell people that they used a different series of aluminum, which makes it bend less. On the iPhone 7, they improved on it more. And now with the iPhone 8 and 10, bending your phone is near impossible. So that's great that there's certain YouTubers that think that, well, because I just bent enough iPhones in person, Apple made these changes for me. Well, I think they made it more for PR. They really just wanted you to stop talking about it, not really because it was a major problem. This is not an issue we're talking about anymore. This is something we're singling out because of its success. In other words, smartphones that were perfect for a lot of people are very easy to break down and make fun of any tiny little problem, because go over to the S6 Edge and you didn't hear anyone complaining. Did it happen? Maybe, but it's not going to make the news because a crappy Samsung phone being built is not a surprise anymore, especially after the Note 7. Did Samsung know that their replacement safe Note 7s were going to explode too? Who knows, really? But yes, Apple knew this was bendable. They didn't think it was easy to bend, though. This had to be under extreme conditions to get to a point where it actually started bending. As many YouTubers have shown, if you try to do a bend test without doing this, smartphones really don't bend that often. Even even if you weigh a lot and even if you sit down in them, even if they're in your back pocket, which again are incredibly rare situations. I feel like that's the running theme with complaints about Apple products, is that 0.00001% of the product line has been affected by this design, therefore Apple is a mess. I love the iPhone 6 Plus. This was my second iPhone ever. No, it never bent, and by the way, I never put a case on it, and I still hold it in front of you today, straight as a nail. Hope you guys thought about that. Hope you guys realized that talking about an iPhone 6 from 2014 is kind of stupid in 2018, and the bend gate was not a massive issue. It definitely didn't affect their sales, and on top of that, a lot of people who bought the iPhone 6 Plus are still using it to this day, and it has aged very well. Not to mention Apple's still servicing this smartphone, as in they can help you with it, they can help fix it, they can replace the batteries in it, and this phone will be getting iOS 12. Do Android phones from 2014, do they get Android P? I don't think so, because most of them are dead. Most of them didn't age too well either. So let me know what you think of iPhone 6 Plus bend gate in the comments below. Not to mention, by the way, back in 2014, more people bought the iPhone 6 than the 6 Plus. So if you want to narrow that chunk of the pie that this affected, it was just really razor thin. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you in the next one.